why not? Greetings, it's been a while, and I reckon probably should do a video to help you guys ascend to the mind and come along for the journey. The CIA recently released a notice, if you will, of the precarious situation that all the alphabet gang agencies are finding themselves in. And they're finding that the American people, thank the frickin' heavens, are finally starting to wake up to the bullshit, the roughshod that's been pulled over the American people's backs. And the CIA is awfully leery of the developing situation. And I think that it's important to make this poignant point. The CIA monitors you through Facebook, all right? They collect data at a phenomenal rate, just like the NSA does. The NSA may be a little more efficient and effective. Of course, we don't know that, but pretty certain they are. But the bottom line is this, that the notices that are being sent out from the CIA at this point are informing high-ranking officials of a pending civil war in this country. Now, make no mistake about it, this country's been in a civil war for a long time. In fact, the original Civil War, there was never a proclamation to end the Civil War, so technically, since Abraham Lincoln, we have been in a war. You were born in a war. Lindsey Graham affirms it in 2013 when he says the homeland is a battlefield, all right? And through more and more due diligence and research, you start to realize that, in fact, that everything is a war. War on drugs, war on terror, war on child trafficking, war on human trafficking. But yet, the ones who declare the war are so often the aggressors, the wrongdoers, the violators of the very thing they war against. And it's funny because the American people are starting to realize it. That all this chaos, all this pandemonium, scamdemic shit, the American people, I think, are really starting to warm up to the idea that they're being dry fucked in the ass without the courtesy of a reach around. And I think they're starting to get it. So tonight, I'm going to do this little video to help you guys out. It's been a while. Thanks again for all your support. Did you realize that when you tender a debt with a Federal Reserve note or a bank draft, check, credit card, or other form of money, as opposed to actual money, you are not in any way making a payment? You simply made a promise to pay. The Constitution and the law establishes that the only lawful money is gold and silver coins. You cannot lawfully make payment with anything but gold or silver coins. Now, where do we find that? And most people that follow me know that it's Article 1, Section 10 of the American Constitution. For Nebraskans, it's Article 1, Section 16, okay? And every state constitution has it. I would invite you, in fact, I implore you to read those state constitutions to your offspring at night before they go to bed, because the retention level of the knowledge gained in the evening is far greater than any other time of the day. 45 minutes before you go to bed, if you read something, you are going to retain a little bit more of it than you would if you had read it at some other point in time in the day. You cannot lawfully make a payment with anything but gold or silver coins unless the parties agree in advance to some other form of equitable value barter exchange. An FRN, it has no intrinsic value and is not evidence of wealth. What do we mean when we say it has no intrinsic value? Let's be honest. When you're done with a Federal Reserve note, you wouldn't even wipe your ass with it because it'd be like wiping your ass with sandpaper and it'd be itchy, rashy, irritating, right? So what do they do with the Federal Reserve note when they're done with it? Well, they simply just shred it because it's cotton, denim, and woven paper, and it's absolutely useless. It doesn't burn hot enough to keep you warm. Pablo Escobar proved that to us by burning over 1 million Federal Reserve notes in one night just to keep his daughter warm. 1 million of them. Could you imagine that? He'd been better off breaking up twigs and gathering sticks to burn, and would have burnt far less physical energy on his own part than he would have burning the Federal Reserve notes. It would have been better just to get off his ass and go out into the wilderness and grab some sticks. 15, 20 minutes of gathering, and he would have had a fire. Anyway, needless to say, Federal Reserve notes are just shredded, and that's it. That's the end of them. Silver coins are not just shredded. They may smelt them down, but they'll utilize them for another purpose. They may repurify them again and take the 10% alloys out of them and make them pure silver again. They may decide to add more alloys to it and utilize it for computer chips or whatever they're using it for. But they will never just shred a coin and discard it back into Mother Earth. Just won't ever happen, all right? So that's what we're talking about, intrinsic value. The fact that a silver coin or a gold coin, literally, under the law of merchant, you can go to any country with gold or silver and nobody will say, well, I need you to take this somewhere to have it, to make sure that it's worth something, right? I mean, they may assess the metal value and make sure that the metal is correct, but they're not going to say, oh, we don't accept this in our country. You know, something one of my wealthy mentors told me. He says, Derek, there became a point in time where you couldn't take over like $10,000 on a plane. And when I go out of the country, I want to know that I can make it back home. Because the reality of it is, some of the places that we go are not that friendly, although they appear very nice in the tourist, Americanized tourist industry areas. There are places that I venture to because I enjoy culture that aren't near as pleasant as the tourist traps. And I was like, okay, cool, I get it. So what do you do? Like, what do you do when you just carry what in lieu of cash? Oh, I carry a bunch of gold and jewelry on me. I walk right through the airport with $100,000 worth of jewels and gold and silver on me, and nobody will say a fucking thing. I wear it, I take it off, I walk through the metal detector, I put it back on, and gone. Well, why would you do that? Well, if I ever need to get out of one of those shithole countries because something erupts, Derek, I have $160,000 to $180,000 worth of very valuable metals and emeralds and jewels on me, and I can get the fuck out of town. Genius. Absolutely fucking genius. So my whole point to this is gold and silver is accepted everywhere. In every fucking country, every nation, nobody will say no to gold and silver. All right? So it is of intrinsic value because it can be utilized for a multitude of things, from medical applications to computers to cell phones to whatever. All right? Not only that, it is recognized worldwide and has been for well over 10,000 years. All right? So just kind of putting your head in the game for those of you that don't understand or haven't read the Constitution, don't understand the value of gold and silver. And I know what you're going to say. House Joint Resolution 192, Public Law 7310, yada, 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 yada. Not all countries did what the United States of America was forced into, by the way. All right? Not all countries gave up their gold and silver. This is why they killed Gaddafi, because he didn't give up his gold and silver, but they wanted him to. Money is gold or silver coin. You cannot lawfully make a payment with anything but gold or silver coin unless the parties agree in advance. That's called contract law, ladies and gentlemen. If we make an agreement for a specific performance, let's say you mow my yard and in lieu of being paid $60, you want a bottle of Eagle Rare. Okay, that's a barter and trade, a negotiation that has happened, and we've agreed that the payment upon performance of mowing the yard will be a liquid bottle of Eagle Rare, a bourbon, okay? And nobody, not even the government, can interfere with our trade, okay? That's Article 1, Section 10 as well. They can't interfere with our trade. If we make that agreement, who is the government to come in and go, whoa, you can't negotiate like that? It's bullshit. It's private contract, and nobody has a right to interfere with it. So long as all the parties that are involved have an ascension of the mind, agree to the terms and conditions, and perform on both. There's performance on both sides of the contract, okay? Advance to some other form of equitable value barter exchange. An FRN has no intrinsic value and is not evidence of wealth. It is evidence of debt, and unfortunately for the one who accepts them, they are not even legitimate notes. Federal Reserve notes fail the test of legitimacy for notes because there isn't a promise to pay anything, okay? The whole deal on a promissory note is that there's some type of value on the back side of it, whether it's your life source energy or something of intrinsic value, a metal, something tangible, right? But the Federal Reserve note is literally backed by nothing. And they're not redeemable for anything. Note, noun, an instrument containing an express and absolute promise of signer, i.e. maker, to pay to a specified person or order or bearer or a definite sum of money at a specified time. A note not meeting these requirements may be assignable but not negotiable. Black's Law Dictionary, 6th edition, a note is a specific and conditional promise to pay. UCC 304-I, intrinsically, a dollar bill is just a piece of paper. Modern money mechanics, Federal Reserve, Bank of Chicago, FRNs do not make payment. What exactly happens then when you make a transaction using an FRN and acquire property or services? You have not, in fact, made payment, but the debt incurred for the goods is thereby discharged. The distinction is significant. There's a distinction between a debt discharged and one paid. When discharged, the debt still exists, though divested of its character as a legal obligation during the operation of the discharge. Something of the original validity of the debt continues to exist, which may be transferred even though the transferee takes it subject to the disability incident to the discharge. The fact that it carries something which may be a consideration for a new promise. So in the Bible it says that the offspring will pay for the sins of the father, right? Well, by using those Federal Reserve notes, we're not actually paying a debt, we're passing the debt onward. Now is it starting to make sense to you how the offspring will pay for the sins of the father? So the father hasn't paid his obligations. Those obligations have to go somewhere. They go into the futures market, okay? And the kids in the future pay for it, all right? That's why I keep telling you guys to read the Bible, because it's surmountable. The amount of information in that Bible, if you can read between the lines, that correlates with what is being displayed in reality to us today. To pay, so as to make an otherwise worthless promise a legal obligation, make it the subject of transfer by assignment. Stank v. White, 215 NW 78F, about a Federal Reserve note can legally do is wipe out one debt and replace itself with another debt. A note that promises nothing. If anything has been paid, the payment occurs only in the minds of the parties in the idea sphere, not the real world. The Miracle on Main Street by F. Tupper Saucy. A bona fide note can be used in a financial transaction to discharge the debt. What do they mean by a bona fide note? Can you create a note? Can you create legal tender? Yes, you can. Okay. That's a bill of exchange, a promissory note, an international bill of exchange, a letter of credit. Okay, those are 4 ways that I know that you can do it. Then there's the 1099A and the W-4 process. So there's 5-6 ways you can do it that you can create. And of course, we have a buddy who bought a $300,000 house with a drawing of a spider. He drew a spider and literally paid off his fucking house. But he also understood the UCC and how it applies. And this is why I do what I do, is to help you guys ascend to the mind, because the people that I'm talking to are executing these processes and doing very, very fucking well for themselves. So it's not a fallacy. This isn't smoke being blown up your ass. This can be done, but you have to have heart, you have to have perseverance, and you have to know damn good and well what you're doing. Because if you renege or you back up because these people tell you, hey, if you don't take that off the record, you're going to go to jail. Well, what they're not telling you is if you don't stand with conviction, the second you pull that off the record, you're guilty of fraud. You obviously didn't believe in what you were doing. And because you didn't believe in what you were doing, you can't stand up for yourself. Guess what? Now we're going to nail you for falsifying a record. That's what they're doing to people. That's why many people go to jail, is because they sit before Judge Tim Terrible in a courtroom, and the judge says, if you don't pull that down, if you don't take that off that record, you're going to go to prison. Okay, Judge. Can I get leave of court? I'll go take it down right now, boss. I'll go take it down right now. And they go take it down, and the judge goes, got him! Got him! Huh. That little Peter Puffer, I'll have him in jail by the week's end. That's what they're doing, okay? All right. A bona fide note can be used in a financial transaction to discharge the debt only because it is an unconditional promise to pay by the issuer to the bearer. Is a Federal Reserve note a contract note, a unconditional promise to pay? At one time, the Federal Reserve issued bona fide contractual notes and certificates, redeemable in gold and silver coin. Most people never saw or comprehended the contract. It went largely unread because the Federal Reserve very cunningly hid the contract on the face of the note by breaking it up into 5 separate lines of text. Hold on. Into 5 separate lines of text with a significantly different type of each typeface of each line, and placing the president's picture right in the middle of it. They even used the old attorney ruse of obscuring the most important text in fine print. Over time, the term and condition of the contract were diluted until eventually they literally became an IOU. Nothing. Step by step, how to kill a commercial court case. One effective remedy I see for getting these bar mafia and corporate gangsters off your back is to make them see the dials on their cash register are spinning backwards. And I agree with that. And before we get started, I want to talk to you guys about Federal Rules of Civil Procedure 11B. All right? And how are you going to enforce Federal Rules of Civil Procedure 11B? Well, you're going to go ahead and utilize the Real ID Act. All right? When these cretins, and they are cretins, they are devious, sinister little fucking lion, looting, painter pieces of shit. And there is no question about that in my mind. You know, out of the 1 or 2 people that they actually prosecute that do belong in jail because they're actual criminals who have caused harm, damage, and loss to somebody, whether they murdered or got drunk and ran into a family of 5 and killed them all, out of a couple of those cases that are legitimate, almost 90% of their bullshit in the courtroom, as far as other people that are in prison, almost 90% of convictions, by my own guessing calculation, are in jail with no victim for victimless crimes. Okay, no victim, there is no crime. And secondly, even though they call it criminal, everything is fucking civil. Everything. Everything deals with contract. And I know what you're thinking. Well, Derek, where's the contract? Well, it's implied. It's an implied contract because you haven't expressed the opposite. Now, could you imagine if we got away with that shit? It's like I told Karen Lynn Noakes one time. She said, well, you didn't respond, so we just accepted that you accepted our terms and conditions. And I'm paraphrasing. She doesn't talk like that. But that's essentially what she said to me. So I looked at her. And I said, Karen, that's like a lot like saying a dumb, blind, deaf, mute girl goes to a fucking party in a mini skirt without any panties on, and because she doesn't say no, stop, don't, and a group of men run a train on her, it's not rape. Is that what we're saying here today? Is that if a girl who's dumb, deaf, blind, and mute, wearing no panties, drunk at a party, can't say no, she wanted it? She turned about 3 shades of fucking white and walked off the fucking bench. Because I made my very, very, very poignant fucking point. This could be nothing more than raping me of my rights. Okay? Just because I didn't say a thing when I needed to say a thing, it was okay for you to stick your finger in my butthole? I don't think so, Karen. Get your stink finger out my ass. It's not pleasant, and it's not going to bode well for you. So that's my point I'm trying to make. That which is expressed removes that which is implied. And in the legal realm, everything is about being devious and twisting of the language and manipulating the situation. That's what lawyers go to school for 7 years, is to learn how to twist and manipulate the language and bend your mind to see things the way they do. And if you don't have a strong willpower, you'll eventually fucking cave because you just want to go back to work and be a good fucking slave instead of standing up for your offspring's freedom, right? So let's get back into this. This is the bar mafia. One effective remedy I see for getting rid of the bar mafia, corporate gangsters off your back, is to make the dials of their cash registers spin backwards. The proper implementation and use of the Internal Revenue Service Forms W9, W7, W8, 1040V, 1099A, 1099 OID, 1099-6, 8281, 8283, etc. appears to be effective in dealing with the corporate gangsters, foreign bar agents, and executive trust administrators. Each time I've mailed them in certified or walked them into the window and asked to speak with the head teller clerk of the commercial court, they don't seem to want to do any business with you when they discover that it will not be profitable to engage, deceive, or swindle you out of your Federal Reserve notes, okay? Because in reality, they're negotiating securities. Bear with me a second here. I'm just kind of getting over a cold. And no, it's not fucking COVID. You know what? I should offer to the CDC a little sample of my blood and go, you know what? I think I've isolated SARS-CoV-2. Check it out. I'm pretty sure I got it. Fucking morons. All right. All right. Let's go further here. Oh, I got to blow my nose. Oh, it's been a while, guys. It's been a while. Oh, all right. Be willing to learn family and friends. Have their cases dismissed with a cease and desist order to vacate. Okay, not to dismiss, but to vacate the order, vacate the case with prejudice. This appears to be the closest remedy to a silver bullet that I have come across. I will never attempt to prove this remedy, and I have zero evidence that it is an effective approach beyond the personal testimony of the people who have walked into these private tribunals with IRS forms in hand and have come out untouched, unscathed, or uninjured. I would suggest taking the time to learn and understand why this is effective before you attempt to wing anything unprepared. All right. So, what am I drinking? It's not a whiskey tonight. It's I'm not a big drinker, contrary to everybody's belief. I really am not a big drinker. Just drinking Pepsi, and that's probably far worse than whiskey, by the way. And I drink it like it's water, so probably really not good on my system. Anyway, long story short, I'm going to read something to you guys I was never going to read to you in the first place. This is what I recently did. And I wasn't going to divulge this, but I'm going to because fuck it. I think you guys deserve it and you need to know. And you should know. So let's go with First Ag Lean. Everybody understand what an ag lean is? An ag lean is a super top secret lien that supersedes any other lien, including a UCC1 financial lien or notice of lien. You guys aware of what a ag lien is? All right, now we're going to try and move forward here to the best of my ability. This is all shrank down. And fuck it, maybe I'll even show you the screen. Why not? Let's see if I can get all the forms in here first. You guys are gonna be like, what a little shit. What a little shit. Now, this one should have been fixed. I think it was fixed. Hold on. Here we go. All right. Screw it. I'll give you guys a little taste. I'll give you a little taste. Shoo-be-doo, doo-be-doo. Oops. Shoo-be-doo. Alright, this is the kind of fun myself, Mr. Anonymous, Smoking Baby, and a number of others like to have with public officials. And because there's no better, and even Chris Hauser, and because there's no better way than to fuck with public officials than to do it yourself to ensure that it's done correctly. I don't know if you guys can see this. I'm working on it. Stay hydrated, my friend. All right. That's about as good as it gets. Maybe. Should we do it like that? Oh, that's a little better. What a pain in the ass. You think I'd make these things a little... There we go. Now we're getting somewhere. Alright. I hope that helps you out. Alright. I require each of any of the following completed listings as attached IRS forms. Okay. This got sent to the governor, secretary of state, attorney general. It got sent over to the judge, the clerk of the court, all the prosecuting attorneys, the alleged special defense attorney, blah, 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 blah. Okay? And the significance of all of this is because this is what they're all required to file. Okay? I require each of the following complete listings as attached IRS forms and in any of each GSA forms posted in the body of this email and as the last PDF attached below the Federal Reserve Form 2046 and the account number of the Disputed Ownership Funds Disclosure Statement Form 8275. This is one of those fuck you, go fuck yourself kind of emails. And I am sure that when they open this, they shit themselves. That relates to the case number CR 22266 or any other number for that matter in Custer County because they change them as you go. Number 84806, driver's license number D085177113, and any other case number associated in the county of Custer County, Nebraska, as well as a case number D04CR2100000012 transaction. That relates to the case number ID 0013705548 in the District Court of Custer County, Nebraska, Public Affairs, Standing, and Tax Compliance Production. Bar card numbers for Joel B.J., which is a false, misleading, unregistered doing business as assumed business name. Martin R. Klein, which is, again, a false and misleading misnomer. All of these are false and misleading misnomers, okay? They didn't sign their oath of office as Joel B.J., Martin R. Klein, Tammy K. Karen Lynn Noakes. Now, that one, I had to do a great amount of due diligence to figure that out, okay? And since then, there's been a litany of other people added to it because everybody that touched it under Title 26, 2603, 2602, 2001, 2002 is liable for a transfer tax on a carryover basis because they touched the tar baby. And once they touch that motherfucker, they can't get the tar off their hands, okay? It's important to know that. So we keep track of everybody that touches it, everybody that uses a false and misleading misnomer, that's an unregistered DBA, not registered to do business in the state of whatever state of confusion you fucking live in, and isn't registered with the Secretary of State. We're going to hammer each and every one of their asses. Now, why can we do that? Because Rule 11B of Federal Rules of Civil Procedure also is in harmony with the Real ID Act, which states that if you're going to bring a legal action, you must use your full legal motherfucking name. All right? And Martin R. Klein is not a full, real, legal motherfucking name. That's fraud, okay? But I don't like fraud because fraud can't get me paid, all right? I'm going to go with gross negligence, malicious prosecution, okay? So ignorance of the law excuses nobody. If you go in there preaching about fraud, you just lost your right to recoupment, all right? To being paid. So I don't like the fraud aspect of it. Get your mind away from the fucking fraud because there's a remedy here, all right? Certificate of good standing issued by the IRS in order to even do business in any of the several states or union of states or the United States. Also, a certificate of good standing from the Secretary of State showing that they have good standing to do business in the state of confusion or whatever state you're in. Articles of incorporation for the state, articles of association for the state, application form 1023, application form 1024, form 990, series return, all right? All of these forms you should be writing down at this point.
These are all forms that they're required by their own fucking code to have filed on fucking record, okay? I don't just do this shit for my health. I don't just do this because I think it's fucking fun, all right? I do this shit because I enjoy freedom, and I want these people to stick to the fucking rules and regulations they created for themselves, because that's what's going to keep public officials honest, period, all right? FinCEN 104 and 114 showing the source and destination of the creditor in whose debt you are acting in collection of, okay? Number 9, delegation of authority to represent state of Nebraska and or Derek S. Gonzalez, which again is a false and misleading misnomer, except for the fact that, I own that motherfucker, all right? Because I own the assumed business name. Derek S. Gonzalez, I own Derek S. Gonzalez, I own Derek Gonzalez, I own Derek Satan Gonzalez, I own them all. The assignment documents assigning the credit account to you or any agency and or agent. What are we talking about? We're talking about the delegation of authority to handle the securities as a securities intermediary, where they're coming in as the fucking beneficiary or co-beneficiary by proxy, all right? That's what we're hammering them on with that statement. Assignment documents assigning the credit account to whoever is actually named. Receipt showing paid capital transfer taxes. That's Title 26, 2603, 2602, 2002, 2001. IRS determination letter ruling on status, meaning that they have the status to operate in the United States or the Union of States, period. Doing business as registered certificates. We already covered that up here where they're doing the Joel B.J., Martin R. Klein, Tammy K. Shant. That's all a bunch of false and misleading misnomers. And they don't have oaths of offices in these names. That's not how they fill out their oaths of offices, because under the Real ID Act and Federal Rules of Civil Procedure, Rule 11B, they are required. It is mandatory. All right? They must use their real name. And that's so you can hold them 100% liable and accountable, okay? For their gross negligence, extortion, fraud upon the court, a number of other things. All right. Your Foreign Agent Registration Act certificate, that is supposed to be with the Attorney General after the Foreign Agent Registration Act of 1938, amended in 1939. Why? Because all state seals after 1950, I think it is, are all registered in Canada, okay? License to do business in Nebraska, although that says California, the typo has been corrected. Certificate of registration of a foreign corporation operating in Nebraska. Assignment documents assigning the credit account to you or any other agent in agency and or agency. 19, license to solicit. 20, bylaws for the state of Nebraska. 21, equivalent to FS 28245, transmittal of funds to Department of Revenue. And the reason we put equivalent to is because we couldn't find the one in Nebraska, but we're certain that all 50 states have the same. So if you go look at Florida's statute, 28.245, transmittal of funds to the Department of Revenue, you'll understand what we're talking about. 22, tax-exempt contribution form, because they allege to be government, but we know that they're not tax-exempt. Tax-exempt contribution form. 23, equivalent to the clerk of the court revenue remittance system, CCRRS of Florida. Again, we're referencing Florida because we couldn't find exactly what it's called in Nebraska. 24, equivalent to the truth in taxation certificate of compliance for all counties in Florida. So same thing, referencing Florida because we know that Nebraska in hindsight has to have something similar. Standard form 24, 25, 25A. Any and all warehouse bonds, signature bonds, bid bonds, performance bonds, bails bonds, payments bonds, penal bonds, whether state or federal. 26, standard form 9091, that's release of lien, release of surety. 27, any omitted items above must have an explanation for non-production. The attached forms are the forms to which the tax ID number for each transferee and fiduciary executor with actual or constructive possession of decedent property on the W-9s shall be applied and submitted to the IRS so that we all may be in voluntary compliance with the Internal Revenue Code of the United States, which I am certain and sure we all wish to be. Thank you for your performance in advance. Okay, that's honest services fraud. That's what I'm making reference to that when I say thank you for your performance in advance. Okay, that's honest services fraud. Thank you for your honest services. Kindest regards, Derek. Okay. Now, hold on a second, little lady. I'm going to show you this. This is what is also attached. Okay. Don't get sideways on me now. Form F-4810, IRS Form 4490, IRS Form 10492, IRS Form 2373, IRS Form 1099A, 1099C, 1099 OID, IRS Form 8281, 8282, 8283, IRS Form 709, 706, 1096, 8300, FW7, the IRS Form W7, W8, or W9. They'll either have one or the other. They'll have one of the three. They may not have all three, okay? They're only required to have one of the three, okay? So it'll be a W7, W8, or W9. 1099R, which is the retirement slush fund for these fucking judges, all right? Federal Reserve Form 2046, GSA numbers for all the forms that we're talking about as far as the GSA bonds. And then the F8, Form 8275. All right. Now, this is what got sent to the Commissioner of the Comptroller, the Commissioner of the Insurance for the state of Nebraska, the Attorney General, the Secretary of State, the Governor. I threw such a wide cast net over these cock-sucking, lion-looting, limey, fucking, slimy rat weasel bastards that I can wrap them all up in a suit and drag their happy lily asses all into fucking court. And under the doctrine of office, if any one of their agents and agency got this email and failed to report it up the chain of command, they have zero plausible deniability. Okay? What I mean by that is they may try and slough it off onto their underling, but here's the problem. They have a duty to pass this up the chain of command, especially when they don't understand it, because what I'm reporting here are crimes, financial crimes, which the federal banking investigators, FBI, which is what they really are, because the FBI was created to lord over the court system, to keep the court system in check. They work for the banks, baby. So they're supposed to be monitoring these courts, making sure they're not running off with a bunch of securities and not paying their fucking taxes and cheating the United States Treasury. But we all know how well that worked out. Anyway, needless to say, let's get back to the subject matter at hand here. All right. There. Now you can read along with me. Be willing. Oh, we're already there. All right. So I just went through the walkthrough of what I'm doing, and I'm not going to tell you everything I'm doing because on the 19th I have this thing called a sentencing coming up, and we all know how that's going to go. Well, most of us know how it's going to go anyway. It helps when you think in terms of banking. The corporate courts are banks and are conducting banking business only at the expense of freedom, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness in the American way. These private administrative tribunals are not administering justice. They are all municipal, corporate, and administrative only, which operate exclusively in commerce, in admiralty, and in equity. They don't want to play anymore when they see the dials on the numbers on their register are spinning backwards. I have no qualms about filing a Form 3949A or a FinCEN 104 or 101, 104, or 114 report against them for obstruction of Title 26, impeding tax filings, misappropriation of public funds, tax evasion, and embezzlement, as well as extortion. That's precisely what is going in these private banking centers What is going on in these private banking centers? They are running 2 sets of books, and audit of their books and records wouldn't go over very well. All right. Oops. And it's so funny because when I talk with these public officials, they like to hang on to this plausible deniability thing. Well, Derek, if I was supposed to fill out 1099s, surely when I get audited by the state every year, they would tell me that I have to do that. It says every court in the IRS manuals, every court must, not shall, not can, must fill out 1099A, 1099 OID, 1099B, and 1099C forms. It says it right there in the fucking manual. It don't get any better than that. All right. Reporting the commercial court case to the IRS, Part 1. In commerce, whoever creates the liability has to bring the remedy. Okay? And that also follows the maxim of law. He who creates the end, or he who provides the ends provides the means. And it's also found in the Bible just the same. Why do you think Jesus was set down here? Because God created a problem when he manifested us a perpetual conflict of interest on this earth to prove the devil wrong, or to prove that he was just in kicking the devil out of heaven. So they manifested us into existence. Let us make man in our image, from the mud of you, from your mud, Lucifer, and from the breath of God within. So we're a perpetual conflict of interest where we lust after the flesh, yet in our heart we know what we're supposed to be doing, and we know what's right and wrong. So we were a huge conflict of interest, and that's what Jesus was sent down here for, is because God created a perpetual conflict of interest, and he had to provide remedy. He who creates the problem also provides the remedy. So, reporting the commercial court case to the IRS Part 1 in commerce, whoever creates the liability has to bring the remedy. It appears that the corporate commercial courts and foreign bar attorneys are not providing remedy pursuant to public law or public policy, so why not create your own? You may exercise your due diligence, be in compliance with Title 26 CFR, if you choose to report the transaction as a taxable transaction to your accountants in the public IRS. It appears that the so-called judge in America tend not to honor congressional mandates or House Joint Resolution 192, Public Law Number 10 of the 73rd Congress, Chapter 48, Statutes at Large, pages 112, 113, and Title 31, USC Section 5118, Money and Finance, or explain to us the resulting discharge of the obligation to pay under the bankruptcy of the United States. If it were me, I would obtain the commercial administrator's or clerk's permission agreement to file the IRS 1099A, 1099OD on the case they have issued bid payment and performance bonds against the all caps ens legis legal name Straw Party. Here's the other thing that was left out of here is the penal bonds and penal sums. Okay, nobody's really talking about that. In a court case, there are penal bonds and penal sums. You can do this by their arrogance in the form of silence via certified mail. Silence in admiralty is fatal. The clerk bankers will never answer you. You will be dishonored by everyone in the foreign corporate courthouse of admiralty and equity. You may file a letter of escrow instructions and notice for acceptance for value of the case with a notice of settlement report to the IRS, which gives you the right to file a 1099A, 1099 OID into the commercial case file. I would assign a contract number on each letter. You will need time, date, stamp on an IRS Form W-9, the A, OID, etc. from the clerk as supporting exhibits to be filed with the IRS. The IRS people will see what the case is valued at and will expect the tax to be paid. Now, here's the thing. I've been dealing with the clerk. She don't want to cooperate. So guess what gets to happen? I get to assess the fucking taxes for myself. And I'm not very good at math. So rather than egregiously underbidding it and undercutting it, knowing that all the source of the credit returns to its source, okay? The credit always returns to its source. So knowing that, and making sure that I don't undercut myself and screw the United States Treasury, I'm going to do an assessment of $100 million on the court case. $100 million. Now, why on God's green earth would I do that? Well, let me just tell you here. Because they're going to have to pay 13% of $100 million in taxes, and that doesn't mention the capital gains that they have for holding these funds. Now, how are we going to prove they hold them? I'm going to W-4 their ass. Don't pay me the $100 million. They employed the Social Security number. I'm going to nail their nuts to the wall for using it, because I highly doubt that they have an SS-89A form on file with the Social Security Administration. And that comes at a $5,000 fine for using the Social Security number and not reporting it to the Social Security Administration what they're doing with it. Oh, shit. Mikey woke up. Somebody knows some fucking things around here. Now, what's interesting about this is most of these people at your local courthouses have no fucking idea about any of this. They're given a little operational manual that doesn't tell them a smidge of the information they actually need in order to operate lawfully and legally simultaneously. So, they're holding my securities, and I want them back because they're nefarious little fuckers, and I don't want them using my securities to incarcerate my fellow Americans, all right? My fellow brothers and sisters. I'm not going to allow them to use my securities that mature over 30 to 40 fucking years, create dividends and derivatives amidst your wildest fucking dreams. You could never fathom how much credits on account are generated from these fucking court cases. We're talking tens of millions of dollars and new currency generated. These fucking smug rat bastards are running away with to the Bahamas, in the Cayman Islands, offshore accounting in Atlas and Atlantis accounts. They are storing the residuals coming off these securities manifested in your good name, and they're cutting you out of it, making you the surety, okay? And they're turning around and coming on the backside as the beneficiary, all right? And underwriting it, or coming back in as the trustee and underwriting your securities with other bonds so they can get paid as trustees for administering the estate. These sneaky rat fucking bastards, all right? They're trying to help you guys out. That's why they're required to fill out the 1099-R. You didn't say smidge. Yeah. All right. You need time, date, stamp on the 10. We already went through that. It appears that the corporate court officials steal our private exemption to avoid a tax liability under Title 26 and are not paying the tax on a commercial market value of the case. This also calls for the filing of a Form 3949A, Suspicious Activity Report, with the Treasury and a FinCEN 101, 104, and 114 form. Financial Crimes Enforcement Network. That's what FinCEN is. It's Financial Crimes Enforcement Network. They're just itching for somebody to send them a document so they can leave that stinking office. They hate being in that stinking office. And most of the agents and agency that I call in these financial divisions are all itching to get the fuck out of the office. They don't like being in there. It's musty. They sit there and their ass gets sore because nobody's giving them directives. Nobody's saying, hello, something looks a little funny over here. Will you come look? Well, you got to send them the fucking paperwork. That's the FinCEN 101, 104, and 114 form. All right? And they will be more than happy to leave the office, jump in a Learjet, and fly to wherever you fucking are to investigate. They love that shit. It's kind of like when you got a field trip when you was in grade school and all you could fucking think about is, I don't give a fuck if I'm sick. I'll be at school tomorrow because we field tripping, right? Same thing with these guys. You may ask the clerk at the window or in open forum court what the value of the case is, all right? What the QSIP number is, since you are aware that the case has been securitized and sold on the open market. The QSIP identifier is proof that the case has been monetized and securitized. You are not supposed to know this. The prosecutor and the clerk are planning to float the bonds out into the open market, into investment pooling funds, for profit. Yep, you heard it here. To the benefit of retirement accounts. And that's why they got to fill out that 1099-R. Okay? Ask the administrator or the clerk at the window to see the statement of account. Now, if you'll notice, this little ditty right here is in quotation marks. You might want to fucking write that down. All right? Things that are typically in quotation marks are a specific way of asking for something or inquiring for something. So when you see that in my documents, you see this in my paperwork, write the shit down. Just like in UCC 3-402, where it says in parentheses, authorized representative. You might want to take note of that. Anytime in the UCC they got something in parentheses, they are trying to draw something out to your attention. Or demand that the clerk bring the ledger forward. Again, in parentheses, quotation marks. So, you can see the breakdown of the charges to determine how the funds for case are being dispersed. If they don't provide you with this information, then you must inform the administrator and the clerk, head bank teller, because that's what they really are, is bank tellers, that if they refuse to provide you with the information, you will assess the market value of the case in box 4 or 5 or of the 1099-A for whatever. 2 million, 10 million per charge, okay? I'm going to go for the full Monty. I'm going 100 million. We're going to put our dick in the wind and swing it like a helicopter. We're going balls out. 100 mil. Now, what's the worst that can happen? Well, the IRS could contact me and go, hey, Dirk, hey, wait, it wasn't 100 mil. Okay, well, what was it? What was it then? If it wasn't 100 mil, because they wouldn't provide it, I had to assess it at something to get you guys to look at it to make sure the United States Treasury wasn't being cheated. So what was it? Go ahead and tell me, so I can fill out this W-4 properly and do a correction, all right? Because the 1099-As can be corrected and amended, ladies and gentlemen. So the reason I go 100 million is that's what the Federal Reserve moves its increments of permissible units in, is 100 million a shot, all right? And I learned that through modern money mechanics and the secret banking manual. Anyway, you think the case is valued at? You have a duty to adjust and correct the tax record for John H. Smith with the IRS. Yes, you do. Now, earlier I mentioned the SSA 89A. Okay? That form states right on it that if they're using the Social Security number, which make no fucking mistake, they absolutely are. If they're using the Social Security number without reporting it to the Social Security Administration, it is a $5,000 fine. Okay? Period. When you ask the court clerk for the W-9 EIN, TIN that they're operating underneath, and they don't produce it, it's a $50 fine. Okay? All this little shit adds up. It doesn't sound like much, but it adds up. And you can get enforcement on it. Do you get the $50? No. Do you get the $5,000? No. But just the same, you're going to get a little bit of action. It's like fishing. You want to use the right bait to get the fish on the hook, okay? Once you've assessed the value of the commercial charges and admiralty on a 1099-A, you are the recipient of the profits and proceeds of the QSIP case number on the OID. I would want to make it clear to the IRS that you are the sponsor for the credit to finance the municipal bonds and securities written and underwritten without your knowledge or consent. I would let the private for-profit debt collector IRS know that you are willing to pay the taxes on the actual value you have assigned to the case. You are the payer on the 1099-A. The head teller clerk is the borrower on the 1099 OID. Now, I know what you're thinking. Well, if you claim $100 million, how the fuck are you going to pay the taxes on that? Real simple. You can write a letter of credit. You can create a money order. You can create an international bill of exchange, a bill of exchange. You can create what you want. It's your party, and you can create what the fuck you want to. All right? It ain't that hard. It ain't hard. But you do have to be a little learned, because when they question you about it, you better be able to explain House Joint Resolution 192, Public Law 7310, and so on and so forth. All right? And what authority and where your authority comes from to write these instruments. And you better understand the Canadian Coinage Act and done in good faith and given for a patent right. Title 504305B2. And this is all shit I rattle off to you guys all the time. And I hope, one day in my heart, I hope that you guys will actually pick up what the fuck I'm talking about like an auctioneer. All right? Because it's important. If it were me, I would walk right up to the head teller window as soon as you have knowledge of the bar mafia have created a QSIP case number and are moving against your estate decedent, reporting them commercial courts case to the IRS Part 2. We'll get back to that. My throat's getting a little sore here. Essentially, it's the same thing. We'll come back to Part 2. Anyway, I'll scan through this, and you guys can pause it and stop it and see what you want to see. Alright? Really not that big of a deal. But should help you guys out, understand what's going on. Oh, here you go. For your tax forms, 1-800-TAX forms to get your 1099As, 1099 OIDs, all that good stuff. All right. We'll come back. We'll get into Part 2. I'm just going to run this through real quick so you guys can pause the video when it's done uploading. 4305B2. That's my favorite because it was Title 1295A. What are they doing? Willis, Arthur, what are they doing? Taking Title 12, banking title, and moving it over to Title 50, brother. They're putting it under the military control for. Because the military is in charge of all script, all right? Federal Reserve notes are military script. So anyway. This goes to the 4506A, 13909, 3949A, the 211 whistleblower form. All this stuff you can do to these people. Now, what's fun is, once you start doing this, now you're collecting the evidence to bring suit against them. And sue them for millions in their private fucking capacity. Because they had a duty to fucking know better. Alright? And with that said, I will talk to you guys soon. I hope this helps you out a little bit. Thanks for supporting selfgovernance.com. We'll be back later on this evening. I'll let this phone charge anyway. Let my voice rest up a little bit here. In your opinion, will your remedy work for a foreclosure or tax sale scenario? On a foreclosure, man, just agree with them. They got a fiduciary responsibility to bring forward the original security and settle the account. They haven't paid the capital gains taxes. Fuck yeah, it'll work. You let the IRS know, look, these sons of bitches trying to foreclose on me, which means they have an original issue security that should have canceled out the debt. And they're cheating the United States Treasury and aren't paying the capital gains taxes on the dividends, derivatives, annuities, and futures from peddling that negotiable instrument. Damn right you're going to fucking let them know. Fucking A right. Shit. Get after it. Don't argue about foreclosure. Agree with it. Yeah, I see you're foreclosing because you're derelict in your fucking duty as a securities intermediary to offset and discharge the fucking balance with the original issued note. You cocksucker. Gotcha. Nothing like a kid telling on himself, right? Comes into the house and, Mom, the cookies are gone. He's got cookies all over his face. Tommy, did you take the cookies? No, Mom, I didn't, but I just wanted you to know the cookies are all gone. They're all gone. Okay, Tommy, get your ass to your room before I spank your ass with this fucking belt. Get up there and go to bed. Lying little fucker. Yeah, nothing like them tattling on themselves. They do it all the time, guys. But we have just been trained to look the other way. You gotta start looking right in their eyes and go, hey, listen here, you little shit stain. I see that chocolate on your face. I love you guys. I'll talk to you real soon.